I don't really have anything interesting that happened this week, but tonight we had family dinner. I need a new size of pants. We had, well, you said it was lasagna,
It
but
started out, it was going to be lasagna, but it was edible.
it was good. Not too crunchy either. I had one crunchy noodle. The rest was soft, but I got made fun of because I got a giant plate, and then Austin got a giant plate. No shit. Had to sit on the counter and eat his food before bringing it to the
It was
table.
overflowing.
Sits down and says, "What did he say? My meatloaf and cottage cheese are running together."
He didn't even know what he was eating at first.
Yeah, that's about the most exciting thing that's happened for us. You can follow Lord Louie on TikTok at
GG_Iowa.
Did it help when you wrote it with your hand?
I did. I had to think about it. I'm like, what is it?
You can find this podcast on Spotify at The Disaster. But today we're talking about birth stories. I'm going to share mine, and Jen's going to share hers because we got two different ones. I actually don't know your full one other than it was an emergency.
And I have it on video, but you probably don't want to see it. Wait, actually, no, Steven's wasn't because it was an actual emergency. The other two I have on video.
Did you, I guess we'll start with yours first. Did you go in for an appointment and it ended up being, or were you in labor?
No, I went into the ER because I was in severe pain and they didn't know why. And my doctor literally thought I was freaking crazy. Like,
how far along?
That was 5 weeks early.
Ugh.
And so I was just in the ER for severe side pains and they couldn't figure out what was wrong. So they had me hooked up to the monitors and I was in there for probably 7 hours and like they were just monitoring me and everything. And then all of a sudden, like nurses and doctors just rushed into the room and they like, of course, started doing the flipping you around, moving you around, and nobody was speaking, like, because they were in a panic.
Because the heart monitor on him?
Yeah.
Okay.
And nobody was talking to us. And
what were they doing for you for the 7 hours? Like
monitoring.
And they were going to send you home after so long? Or?
They were, yeah, because they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. They gave me some meds and stuff trying to help with the pain and everything, but they had no idea what was wrong with me. They just
and you're probably limited to what pains you can have or what meds you can have.
Yeah, so they were just giving me IVs and all that good stuff, and I was dehydrated. That was
she always dehydrated. This girl can drink 2 gallons of water a day, not even exaggerating, and still be dehydrated.
And actually, at that point, I had already been hospitalized. This would have been my 5th time with him at the pregnancy for being dehydrated.
Were you throwing up the water, or you just couldn't drink enough?
I just couldn't drink enough for that pregnancy. So
no, the others weren't like that.
With Austin, I would think I was in the hospital for 2 times for dehydration with his. I know, it was crazy.
They just give you IV fluids
and then send me on my way. Yeah, totally. But with this one, then nobody was talking to us. Then all of a sudden, they actually finally said, "We have to take him. He's not breathing." And then at that point, they like started pulling my gown up, and as we were going out the door and going down the hallway, and I'm bawling, like
I imagine.
Yeah.
They didn't tell you about the cord. You found out after that's why he wasn't breathing?
So, yeah. But literally, like, later on, I can remember thinking later on, going, oh, my God, everybody in that hallway saw, like, my hoo-ha. Like,
when they knock you out? Because emergency, you're passed out.
In the room. By the time I got to the room, they had already had the iodine on me. They had everything ready.
Did they say anything, like, while you're freaking out, or they just put you under, not calming you down, anything?
I can remember I had like snot in that mask. I had everything because I was bawling, and they just put that mask over me and started counting, and I was out.
Some good hospitality. No, I probably for the better though.
It was in a total emergency. Like they needed to get him out because he
got out, and I mean he's fine now. Obviously, we see him on his bullshit every day, but
yeah,
he was no NICU, no nothing.
So he was in the NICU then. He was 5 pounds, 15 ounces, but he was in the NICU because he was jaundice and all that good stuff. They thought he was going to have to be in the NICU for a week, but he ended up only having to be in there for 2 days. So
and you 3 days in a
yeah. But he was just a scrawny little guy. Like he was 21 inches long. So being 5 pounds, he had no fat.
Wow, and he was small. So
yeah, Stephen was a pound less.
Okay, 21 inches long in the NICU for 2 days, jaundice.
Yes.
Is that it? And then he was out, but you had a C-section. So were you 3 days?
I was. Well, so, okay, no, I guess I should back up. So I was in the hospital for 3 days, and then he was 2 extra days on top of my 3. So we did go home.
So he was about a week.
Yeah, so we did go home an extra day and then had to come back and grab him after those 2 days. So we went home and spent without him. So I 2 extra days per month when
Were
I
you
went.
in the hospital of the NICU? Like when he went to the NICU,
We went to
were you guys in the
Mercy.
same hospital?
Yes, we
Okay.
were just on a different floor of NICU. So I did my 3
Mercy,
days.
Maine.
Mercy downtown.
Okay, yep, Mercy, Maine.
Yeah, and then when I went home, he was still there an extra 2.
Damn.
Yeah. Yep.
That's rough going through that for a week, 2 days. I said I don't know what I would do if we have our second kid and he's in the NICU. What do you do with your first kid? And then
Yeah.
Austin and Ella were not like that.
But we stayed there. I mean, we went home and did some laundry and stuff, and then came back and picked. I mean, so we were there like the whole entire time, more or less, while he was at the NICU.
Yeah.
So.
And then, so Steven was your first. 2 more C-sections because of him being your first. Did you get to schedule those?
Yes,
then?
they were scheduled, but obviously, even though they're scheduled, if there's emergencies that come in, they get.
Did
pushed
you have
back.
another emergency C-section?
No.
Okay.
Other people. So.
Oh, right.
Yes.
So you could have gotten pushed back. Is what
And
you're
which
saying.
I did with both. Austin's got pushed back like by an hour or so, like that. So I mean, you still have your scheduled day and time, but they always
That's not bad.
No, it wasn't.
That could have been.
Yeah. So with Stevens, I was completely knocked out, but with Austin and Ella, I was awake for the whole entire time.
What would you rather, awake or knocked out?
Totally awake, because with Steven, like I didn't get to see him then till like the next day.
Right. No, and I guess you wake up not knowing what happened, especially if you went in with an emergency.
Yeah. So no, definitely awake.
And you said Troy almost missed 1 or 2 because of the Daytona 500.
So all 3 kids were born on the Daytona 500. Oh wait, were they?
Or was it the Indy 500?
No, Daytona.
Daytona?
Steven was born during the Daytona 500. Yes. Well, actually, so then all 3 were born when Jeff Gordon won. That's how it was.
That's what it was.
But yeah, Steven was born during the Daytona 500.
Was Troy on time, or did he?
Troy was actually downstairs smoking when they pulled Steven out, and nobody could find him because they pulled him out so quickly.
Oh my God! So you were in there by yourself.
Well, I was knocked out anyway.
Who ran to? How did Troy find out?
So my mom was actually with me. She was upstairs. Well, of course, nobody was in there with me. I was knocked out.
Yeah.
But the doctors couldn't find anybody because, like, he was downstairs smoking because he thought it would take longer. So,
I mean, to be fair.
Yeah.
You guys were playing for that.
But yeah, and so then with obviously the other 2, I was awake, so he was in there with me. But it was so funny with like Ella. I can remember, like, because they have to put everything back in you and you sew
Which
you
is
up
weird
and stuff.
because, for the record, anyone who's about to have a C-section, that's not what happened to the last person we know had a C-section, so don't panic. But that could still happen. I don't know. I'm no doctor.
I think it must depend on what doctor you have, because I have videos, and clearly in you videos, they take your insides out, put them on top of you, and then take the baby out.
Right, and
that's
my
what they did in
nephew's
mine.
mom said that did not. Bella says hi. She's chasing rabbits. My nephew's mom said that did not happen to her. Well, I guess she didn't say it. My brother-in-law did, and he was in there, so.
Yeah, it must. I don't know if it was my doctor or what.
And I guess he was a little bit of an emergency-ish, kind of.
Yeah.
They just switched from not too bad of an emergency. Not like yours, that's for sure.
And back to Stevens. So then after they did take him out, my doctor did come in the next day and apologize, like, over and over again. My fallopian tube was so enlarged.
That's right.
And and Steven had been laying on it, and that's what was causing all my pain.
And you'd gone in, though, for that issue before that day, and they kept saying nothing's wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do remember you saying that.
Yep. So, and then my fallopian tubes actually happened to be the same problem that I had a heck of a time getting pregnant with Ella, because one of them didn't work then by the time I was trying to get pregnant with Ella.
So kind of what it sounds like is we can blame Steven for all of our problems.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
I didn't know that could happen, but you could not have a kid because someone smashed your fallopian tube.
Well, I don't know if it was smashed, but then I had so much scar tissue when I tried to get pregnant with Ella that one of them wasn't working at that point.
All right, so
So yeah, I don't know. I had so much scar tissue by the time I tried to get pregnant with Ella that one of my tubes didn't even work at that point. So
it took you a little bit, you
it
said.
did. So I had to go in. I had to do it before I got pregnant with her. I had to do a DNC, and then they had to put
Yes.
dye up my tubes, trying to clear them out, and one still didn't work. So it
You
took
know,
us.
that sounds like I would have not had that third child.
Yeah.
But I'm on the fence of 3 anyway.
Yeah, no, it took us a long time to get pregnant with Ella. So
Ella should feel honored that she's here.
I know she should, but I wanted that little girl, so I kept trying. So
Yeah, well, if I don't have a girl next, yeah, I still don't know about that.
there
third
are
time.
directions for that.
Yeah, I got, so if this isn't awkward enough, I got directions on how to have a boy for my in-laws.
And it worked.
It worked. Steven had me on such a strict diet. I was eating granola bars because granola, apparently, and a shit ton of bananas. Every day to work, a banana, lunch, a banana, my snack, a banana. I will say I did not cramp up that bad when I was working out ever because I had a lot of potassium.
But it's not even the diet, okay? So
Yeah.
there's special positions. So I
Yeah.
mean, just Google it, okay?
If you do Google it, it will pop right up. Don't worry, it'll pop right up for you.
One of my besties wanted a girl so bad too after 2 boys, and I gave her those directions, and by God, she had a girl on her 3rd child. So
Maybe it's the 3rd.
no, I don't. It's the directions.
I'll have to look at those directions again.
Uh-huh.
All right, so I think I posted a story today, and it had a picture of me in a blow-up hot tub, is what it looked like. And I got a number of questions. You had Dean at home? Yeah, well, that's how that started. Have you heard the whole story? All right, so before I tell the story, you supported me. I said I wanted a home birth right away, and you supported it, and you said, "Yep, that's fine. I know some people who did it. It was good. It was great. I never got grief from you."
No,
Now that he's here, how did you feel every time I told you I was doing it?
I wanted you to do whatever you were comfortable with doing. Did I like it? No, I was scared to death, but I wanted you to do whatever you were comfortable with doing.
My mom was scared to death too, and she made it known every time she saw me.
That wasn't my place. That wasn't my place. You needed to do whatever you were comfortable doing.
The story behind wanting a home birth. Well, actually, I guess what I wanted was a water birth. And due to risk of infections that are very, very, very low, the hospital's insurance will not cover that anymore. So I couldn't do it at the hospital if I wanted a water birth. I'm not going to say where we went to do this. I'm not outing anyone because mine did not go well. We took Steven a long time to get on board with it. He got on board with it, and honestly, I thought the best part was, you know what, I'll do it at home. I'll be in the comfort of my own space, and no long ass needle going in the spine of my back, and I am still fucked from that needle. It is my own fault, but I think it was. Let's see, I was working still. I was working from home this day. I got off at 4:30. I ate Taco John's at 5, and I got these I don't have period cramps, and that's what everybody describes labor as. And you were no help. You never went into labor at the time. You had scheduled C-sections and an emergency one. So I was like, oh, this kind of feels weird in my lower abdomen. And I'm sitting on my exercise ball because at that point, I couldn't fit in my work chair. I would sit up at the beginning and end of my work chair, and I couldn't do it. I was like, this is not comfortable. So I got on that chair, and I got on that ball. I think I sat on that ball at 36 weeks. I had one. I didn't have one at the office, but I stood or I was out doing stuff most of the time. So every day at home, I sat on that, and I probably worked from home, I don't know, three days a week towards the end of my pregnancy, 4 days a week. And I just bounced on the ball. And I remember telling Steven, I got a little bit of cramps in my abdomen. Nothing, I wasn't worried about it, but I was like, is this it? Is this what's happening? And honestly, it hit by, I don't know, 7 o'clock. I had a doula, and oh my God, bless my doula. She was a saint. I had a doula, and I text her, and I'm like, I don't really know if this is what it is, but I'm getting a little bit of contractions. And let me just phrase this with, I've got a German Shepherd. If you follow me on TikTok, you've heard this story. She is the most protective dog. You're not coming in my house if you're not welcomed, and if you're a stranger and you are welcomed, good luck still getting in my house. So I was freaking out. How's my doula going to get in here? I'm just going to put her out. The plan was I'd be in labor for I don't know. I said I was having my baby in 8 hours. I'd do 4 of it by myself, do the other 4 with the doula and deliver, and Bella could be on the back patio. Me in my perfect world.
Yeah.
The doula came over at about 8 o'clock. And my mom came up not too long after that, and Steven didn't get off till 11 and was home by 11:30. And I think my contractions got a little bit worse. And then all of a sudden at like 10 o'clock, they got horrible. My doula was there. We had introduced her and Bella, and they were doing fine. And the more pain I got in, the more scared I got. What's Bella gonna do? I'm sitting in the bathtub, and I remember the pool wasn't set up yet because my midwife wasn't there. And my midwife, I told her I was going in labor to give her a heads up, and she goes, you know what? The first one's 24 hours. You're fine. Call me when you can't stand it anymore. And I was like, all right, these are pretty rough, but okay. So I'm sitting in the bathtub, and Steven gets home, and it's bathtub's getting cold, and I'm running out of hot water. So he goes and gets the pool heater. What's the pool heater? And this pool heater is like a metal mason jar is what it reminds you of, but metal, and then a cord that you plug in. And I'm like, well, if this isn't the most redneck heater, probably not safe. I get out at, I don't know, midnight, and my doula gets ready to lay down on the couch, and she's like, we're going to get some rest, lay down and try to sleep through some of these contractions. And I'm like, all right. I think they were 20 minutes apart at that time. And I'm like, oh, you know what? 20 minutes. We're getting closer to, I don't even know if it was 2 minutes or 5 minutes that they're supposed to be. I think it's 2 minutes. 2 minutes apart.
It's something like that.
Then
yeah.
So I called my midwife again, let her know, like, all right, we're gonna try to sleep through some of this. Steven, I think he went to work that day at 1, and it's probably midnight, and I'm just screaming in the bed into my pillow, and I'm like, okay, I'm not saying anything to anybody because I'm trying to sleep through it, and I'm like, just sleep through it, just sleep through it. And then I finally see my doula's head like peek up into our room, and I was like, yeah, I can't do this. I can't sleep through it. It hurts too bad. So I started at 5. That was about midnight. I did that. I went up and down the stairs. I got in the shower. I screamed. I couldn't eat. It was 5 in the morning. I think we finally decided to call my midwife, and I said, I need you to come over here. I feel like, and my contractions were 5 minutes apart. So she came over, and she's like, oh yeah, you might have this baby by 7. Every time I would get in the birthing pool, my contractions would go farther and farther apart. And I got so tired. I think twice I fell asleep in the birthing pool, and she kept making me get out of it because my contractions would get farther apart, and she wanted them closer apart. Let's see what happened after that. I think it was 7 a.m. now. She told me I'd have this baby by 11 a.m. And I was like, all right, you know what? I can get through it. I didn't really know when to push. She goes, whenever you feel like it, whenever you feel like you should be pushing, push. And that was not a good idea. That didn't work out. So I think my contractions stayed at 5 minutes apart for, well, I was in labor for 42 hours total. I labored for only 9 of those in the hospital. So she had said she told me I was 7 centimeters dilated, break your water, and probably progress things. And I was like, I had already asked before this, I want to go to the hospital. I can't do this pain anymore. And this was after 30 hours maybe of labor. And she encouraged me and said, nope, you can do it. We can stay, whatever. And I was like, whatever, fuck it. So I stayed. And then I asked her, I was like, just break my water. I just want to get this over with. I am exhausted. I'm in pain. And she broke my water. And it was, I don't know, 2 hours later, Steven and my mom are out in the living room with my doula. It's me and my midwife. And I just said, I really don't want to do this. I want to go to the hospital. And my mom, that girl on a motor scooter have wings? I don't fucking know. But she busted through that door so quick. Said, pack it up. Let's go. Somewhere in the mix of this, my sister was there. I don't know when she showed up. I have no recollection of her being at my house, but she had to have been there for a while. And it was the next day. This was after the midnight, all of that. Yeah. This was definitely the next day. My doula said, well, we have to make sure that they have room for you. And I said, I don't give a fuck if they have room for me or not. I'll go to a different hospital. I'm not doing it here. So at that point, I started panicking. My water had been broke for 6 hours, I think. And she kept saying, like, that's okay. It's all right. All right, whatever.
No.
Got to the hospital, and they wanted me to give them X, Y, and Z, everything. My insurance, every little detail. And I said, give me back to the fucking room and give me an epidural. And poor Steven's like, what she said, and handed the insurance card and my ID, and off the back room we went. I had asked for no fentanyl. I did get fentanyl, and I just remember laying on the bed. My dad's not a hospital guy. He doesn't, I mean, he'll sit out in the parking lot and wait for you until you get out if something happens. My sister got her appendix out, like an emergency, and I'm not sure that he went into the hospital. I think he was waiting outside.
Oh.
I'm not sure. I don't recall.
For bad experiences, or?
He is just, hospitals and needles, no.
Oh.
So I don't know, but I remember they gave me fentanyl, and I laid down, and I think they had to give me Benadryl too, and it just knocked me out. But at some point, I like opened my eyes, and I saw my dad, but it was very blurry, and I was like, am I dying?
Oh,
I think my dad started crying. Steven went to the other side. I thought I dreamed it. I had woken up, and I was like, is my dad here? Was my dad just here? And Steven's like, yeah, your dad's here. Do you want me to go get him? Here they come in with this epidural, and I start contracting again, and my contractions were horrible if I was laying down or sitting up. These are the only two ways I did not want to have contractions.
Yeah.
I stood up. I'd stand on my head. I don't care. I was not sitting down for a contraction. I actually, when we were checking in, I was in a wheelchair, and they were asking for my freaking social security number, all that shit. I remember I had a contraction, and I popped up out of that wheelchair, and she goes, you can sit in that. And I'm like, the hell I can. I'm having a contraction. And I'm like screaming. You should have seen me in the car. My mom squishes into the backseat. First, my mom goes, I'll drive, Steven. You can sit back here with her. Steven's a cop and knows the entire area of the city that we live in, and we'll fly there. My mom, Steven goes, I'm driving. You get in the back. And we had Dean's car seat up, and I think we had the dog hammock in too. So mom's sitting here. I'm like covered over mom, trying to like lay down and stretch out so I don't have a contraction sitting up. Worst fucking car ride. Longest car ride of my life. And finally, I get that epidural. And I apparently get 2 lidocaine shots and then the epidural. I had no idea what was going on. They don't tell you. They don't do the like 1, 2, 3 like I was expecting them to do. Mm. So the first needle, again, I don't know how big it was, goes into my bone. I don't know where it goes, but fuck it felt like my bone. And I did all right, but I was like, oh God, this hurts, this hurts, this hurts. Then the second one to numb me, and it was right in the middle of a contraction, and I jumped, and I forever screwed my back up from it. But she had to redo it. That was the worst part. I was like, oh, we're doing this one more. She goes, I didn't get it. And I'm like, all right. Didn't realize they pushed fentanyl again before they do that, but for whatever reason, that one didn't knock me out. So then they put the epidural in, and I don't think I felt it. I think, yeah, my back was so messed up from the other one. I didn't feel the actual epidural go in, and I remember her leaving, and I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm the worst patient ever. I moved. You shouldn't have had to do it twice. And I was bawling. I felt horrible. And she's like, no, it's fine. It's been worse. Oh, so I have Dean. Well, they repositioned me. I had one leg that just went dead. I couldn't. It would fall off the bed, and I would like muster to pick it up. They had a peanut ball that they had to put in between my legs. I think I had to roll 2 different ways, but one contraction I could always feel, but I didn't really say anything about it. I didn't think anything of it. Then it was time to push, and I pushed for like 40 minutes. I was laboring. I labored for 9 hours in the hospital, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Yeah, not too long.
Yeah.
Then we had Dean, and he was over. Now after COVID, they have like mini NICU rooms inside your room. So he was over in that like mini NICU area, and there was stuff going on with him, and Steven went over there with him. And I just remember I was like, this hurts. I'm in pain. Oh my goodness. And she stitched me up, everything. And I go, can I can I go to the bathroom? Can I try to walk? She said, yeah. I had held Dean at that point, but they took him back over there, and they were trying to decide if they were going to be able to suction him or he was going to have to go to the NICU.
Because he wasn't crying, really.
Correct. He didn't really cry. He kind of just gargled and like looked up at me, and they left him on my chest for a while. So I was like, oh, he must be fine. They were doing all of their like tests on him while he was laying on me. And then I asked if I could go to the bathroom, and they took him back over there. And she goes, yeah, we'll take your epidural out and we'll tape up your epidural, and I'll help you to the bathroom because you might not be able to walk. And I said, no, I can feel both legs. I'm fine. I'm in so much pain. Everything just hurts. I sat up, my epidural fell out. Nobody realized my epidural fell out. So I went to the hospital for an epidural, went through the pain to get the epidural, and didn't get the epidural. I think it had to have fallen out. I gave birth freaking, if you can see me on my YouTube, you can picture this. But if you're not on the YouTube and you're on Spotify, picture somebody breakdancing on their shoulder with their head on the ground. That was me cockeyed in the bed because I was in so much pain I couldn't move. And then Dean ended up having to spend a week in the NICU. I am not getting into that. That is not, I don't even think I've looked at those pictures. Maybe September's National NICU Awareness Month. I think that's the only time I ever look at those pictures. I make a Facebook post on it, but that's it. But I think we left the NICU a week later. It couldn't have been when I left because you left with us. It must have been the day before I left. I looked at my mom and I was like, well, I hope the water birth for the second baby goes a little bit better. I thought she was
hell no.
I thought she was about to throw me out of that.
We'll bitch slap your ass before we let you do the second one at home.
Yeah, so now the joke every time is whenever my mom asked when I'm having a second kid, I said, whenever I decide to have this water birth again.
Yeah. No, I was nice. I'm like, if that's what you want, that's fine.
Yeah.
This time we're like, oh, hell no.
Yeah, absolutely not is the answer I get.
From absolutely everybody in the family, we're like, hell no.
Yeah, so in a sum, Dean did start off at an at-home birth, water birth. It was awesome. It was great. For the record, when my midwife told me I was at 7 centimeters dilated, I'm not sure what she was thinking because I got to the hospital and I was 6. So, yeah. And I kept getting the promise of like, oh, you're going to have him in an hour. Oh, 2 more hours. Oh, here's when that sucked. Because then I was like, okay, I'm going to have him soon. And that didn't happen.
No.
And I went 48 hours without eating anything. But if you look at pictures from when I was at home to the hospital, and I think I've posted them on my Instagram. If not, I'll have to make a post. But you can see the difference of how I felt. I was miserable and dead at home. And then I got to the hospital and I ate a sandwich. You brought Burger King. Went through that drive-thru twice.
I did. They had a limit on how many sandwiches you could get.
Yeah, for the record, we were only getting 5, I think. Steven, me, and then you, Troy, and Ella were all there.
But we were in the hood. I mean, if that tells you.
Yeah.
But, okay. Yeah. But still, so I had to go through twice to get him the amount of sandwiches Steven wanted for her. Okay?
Yeah, that is true. And
yeah,
our NICU experience was amazing. We had amazing nurses. We did have one nurse that I was not going to leave that night, and I don't know this pissed me off, but I was also glad that it happened. Steven had to go back to work immediately, and he came on his lunch break every single day. And he happened to be in uniform the day that this girl was working. And I had to have been the uniform because after that we got excellent care. But our first 2 days it was amazing.
Yeah.
But we went through a lot of shit we didn't have to go through in the NICU. And that was not fun and not good. Second one will not be an at-home birth. But I did hear you can, I mean, I'm not going to do this in a hospital, but you can sit in the bathtub to labor. You just can't have them in the tub. I'm not going to do that, but
yeah,
I'll definitely get an epidural. Hopefully before the contractions start so that I'm not sitting there contracting during an epidural. But
yes, because you're going to be at the hospital this time, so you can get it before you start.
I think we're going to do a different hospital too. Nothing against the hospital we had. Loved it. That was the one that worked with a lot of parents who tried home births and then ended in the hospital for whatever reason, whether it was emergency or they chose. Yeah. They were amazing. The hospital rooms were huge. That's how Dean the Disaster traumatically made his appearance into this world and has been making it known from day one.
Yes.
I don't even know. Did they go inside?
No,
They
I
must
think
have. It's
they're,
dark.
yeah, I don't know.
Bella's sitting at the door. But you can, I will link my email in the show notes. You can email us at aimatkristen@gmail.com with questions, stories, topic suggestions. The next podcast will be growing up with Aunt Lulu. So go ahead and do your cue. We'll do the answers after. And I think the one after that, you guys have requested the long version of how Steven and I met and how our first date went. That's one you're definitely not going to want to miss. I will forever never let him live that down. And I think after that we have a breastfeeding one, undersupplying as a first-time mom. I got a guest starring in that one too, guest starring one of my famous. But I think that's a wrap for today. Go follow us on TikTok at Dean the Disaster. Subscribe on YouTube at Dean the Disaster. Spotify called The Disaster because we still don't know what the hell we're doing. This is our first podcast. And I promise you, we're not doing seasons. I don't even know. We can even break it up into seasons. But come podcast number 226, we still are not going to know what the hell we're doing. But we will probably have.
But that's what makes it fun.
Exactly. We'll have 30 different guests by then. We do have one coming up. We've already got emails for this, so everyone send your emails in on date fails, first date stories, red flags, send it all in. We've got a pretty good one waiting for you guys, so go ahead and give your TikTok another shout out.
My God, I'm still with my red flag.
All right, well, maybe Jen will be on again. We are gonna do I will put this in a separate category. We are a Blue Line family. We do back the blue. However, we know all of you don't support us. You better go figure something else out then. But we are going to do some Q&As with Steven on the job. He'll still maybe tell some stories. But Steven's uncle is a sheriff, yeah?
Yes, he is a sheriff.
So we are going to try our best to get him on here.
Yeah, show him some love. Maybe that'll help him get on here.
Yes, we will do some Q&As with him and the different calls that a sheriff gets versus a cop.
Yep.
Actually, obviously, we know the big difference, but he's a small town sheriff.
He is.
So he still does answer.
He's chief deputy, actually, in a small town.
Yeah, he's going to be pissed that I downgraded that.
Yes. And actually, so Steven's dad was deputy back when Steven was a kid. And then actually both of Steven's uncles were cops.
They're twins. I just think that's a cool fact.
Yes.
If you follow me on TikTok, you have to go see Steven and his uncle are twins. Yes. I am not joking when I tell you they're twins. Good luck telling me which one is who.
Yes.
You won't. I promise. You can't.
So we are a huge Blue Line family. So yes,
we are actually going to get Troy on this podcast. He did agree at lunch. He was too busy calling me a pig and oinking at me to maybe remember.
Yes.
But he is going to come on here and share some of his story. Make sure you follow us, subscribe, do the damn thing. All right. Well, we will work on this second podcast. That's a wrap. I'm your host, Kristen Genovese, and our guest, Jennifer Bennett Genovese.
Yes. Woo!